Hi, it's Colin Andrews, and it's my pleasure to be with you today on the Summer Academy gathering. I've been asked if I would present 20 minutes or so to you about really and truly what has turned out to be an unexpected and surprising journey for me. It began in 1983, actually almost 27 years to the day, that I was driving as a senior official in regional government in Great Britain as an electrical engineer by profession. It was a normal day, and I was on my way to a meeting, and I just made a casual glance to my left from high ground in my vehicle. I was driving alone, and I saw in a field, a wheat field, 5 circles. These were circles forming across, a large circle in the centre in the wheat, and 5 circles, smaller circles, around that larger central feature, forming across north, south, west, east in positioning. And in that half second, now I realise, but at the time it was a matter of what's that? That was the beginning of 27 years which changed everything from my profession to my country to my friends and colleagues and my way of life. And maybe I should now place that as my part of this experience aside and share with you what I've learned. I came to form one of 4 people, the first research group in the world, researching what was then considered to be a new phenomenon to planet Earth. And I applied as an engineer and scientist myself, and then with others coming in on the sides, the rigors of science to try and resolve how those circles arrived in that field. By asking questions of the farmers locally and to the authorities, the Ministry of Defence, and I was very privileged position in regional government to have access to these people, it became clear that this was not the only set of circles to appear on planet Earth. They were geographically distributed around Stonehenge in particular in central southern England. But as time went on, as we I ate in with others to the 27 years between then and now, I saw and experienced that simple circles were rapidly evolving into complex geometries. And so, looking at through the whole spectrum of science and applying research to this, we looked at plant analysis to see if the plants were different. We looked at the magnetic field of the Earth to see if there were clues there. We looked at meteorology, geology. We looked at astrology and even astronomy. And there was little that frankly has now been left out of the equation of trying to understand what is happening here. The location of these crop circles are geographically now throughout the planet, around the planet. Most of the in-depth research has been conducted in central southern England because that's where I and my colleagues were living at that time, and that's where we focused our efforts. So what is a crop circle? It's a circular area, usually in cereals, but it can be in any standing vegetation, where the plants concerned are bent over at right angles, just above ground level, between half to 1 inch above ground level, and spiraled, can be clockwise or counterclockwise, flattening the crops concerned into a circle. Often, although not always, these geometries are perfect, in other words, perfectly circular or ovoid. There can be eccentricity involved, but they are in vegetation from grass, cereals, as I said, usually, and one or two reports in even in trees. We have them in rice paddy fields in Japan, in tobacco plants, in oilseed rape, canola. So the whole variety of vegetation giving us crop circles. Crop circles is a term that I in fact coined. It came out of my mouth simply as a term to describe in my first book with Pat Delgado what it was we were looking at. But indeed it doesn't really do credit now to the subject, because they are much more than crop circles. They are patterns, geometries, agroglyphs, designs. When it comes to those designs, of course it appeals to us to know what those designs mean. What could they mean? What are they intended to mean? This is where, of course, we then break away into, well, is it people making them and they intend you to think this, or is it another hand that is constructing a geometry which is intended to take you to a place with information being conveyed? Well, the theories, that is to who or what or how the geometries are placed into the fields, include earth energies. These are theories that have not just come from myself, but other people that are looking at this, scientists, engineers, and laymen, looking at asking those questions. How did they get there? What do they mean? Earth energies is certainly, as comes up quite regularly, UFOs, the perfectly circular forms with the perfect spirals, and some eyewitness accounts in various parts of the world where UFOs are seen. But there are differences between the ground effect from where we have witnessed UFO leaving ground level to what is typically called a crop circle. We're often looking at burning and certainly radiation with regard to the UFO activity. So these so far have been really fairly effectively eliminated. Then you look at weather. Could these be caused by a change in weather, a change in climate change, in global warming? Are we looking at the atmosphere changing in some way that we have not seen before? We have not really come to any confident assessment as to whether that really truly is a serious contender. In the early days with Dr. Terence Meaden being on our team, a meteorologist by profession, he was indeed looking at simple circles in the lee of a hill, which may be as a result of air interaction with the topography causing a simple circle. But of course, that isn't what we now have. And so weather, I think, is pretty well eliminated. And then we have the hand of people. Well, we now know that a large number of crop circles are made by people. This is where it now becomes very complex, because we now know people making crop circles, leaving others that defy our imagination still. In those made by people, you have damage, you have ground impact, pressure of the feet, pressure of the weight of the person, damage to those plants. You have the application of design with markers that people need to make in the construction of the geometry. And then you have the plants themselves, which either do or do not lend themselves to a human hand. Making a crop circle in a rice paddy field is much more difficult than making it in a wheat field, because people sink in a paddy field, and we get them in paddy fields. And so we have this human hand over here versus those that have no tracks, no pressure, no visible and obvious evidence of the marker positionings that need to be placed into the field for a person to make the design. And so, and of course, that's without the science of lack of change at the cellular level of the plants and the magnetic traces that we're getting that are unusual in those that we see no sign of a human hand. And so looking at hoaxing, it is involved with some of these, and it clearly is not in other cases. But the journey has been a long one, but we have learned a lot. What I hold my hand up and accept guilt, being the guilty partner, was not in spending enough time soon enough to look at the possibility that we were being deceived, and meaning being deceived by people making crop circles. What has happened is fascinating beyond belief. We have now two courts to look at here, two segments of inquiry, two sections. On the left, we have at least 20% of the world's total crop circles being discovered we cannot account for. That is, we cannot account for the hand that placed them there, the mind that placed them there, or the mechanism that placed them there. We have, on the other hand, in this other group, a large-scale hoaxing problem. People, for various reasons, are making crop circles. Some for the experience, that they call themselves experiential artists. They will make a construct and then monitor the reactions of the people to them. You have those that are simply trying to deceive us, to cause a problem, to throw a stone in amongst the order that we're trying to get out of this. There are various reasons, so there are two camps. And here's the real kind of clincher that has been missed by so many